Well, hello and welcome, everyone. So, my name is Christine and Ten. I'm so excited to engage with all of you for the state of the global startup ecosystem. And this is going to be a very crucial and really important conversation to have because I know many of you are seeing the headlines, many of you are seeing just like the state of business has really shifted. It's not a 2025 thing, it's something that's been shifted for a couple of years now. And I think now we are at the point where we can have a very tangible and open conversations about this. And so this is going to be probably the most practical 60-minute session that you're going to really need to navigate today's climate. So first and foremost, welcome to the State of the Global Startup Ecosystem Q1 session, how founders should navigate today's economic climate. So this session is for you if you're a founder trying to figure out how to navigate in today's crazy economy, today's digital space, and just how buyer behavior has completely shifted over the past couple of years. Now, this session obviously is going to share and explore trends that I'm seeing, especially from my vantage point as being the CEO of the Global Startup Ecosystem, and really sharing with you the insights that probably you're not really seeing from your vantage point, and how the stakeholdership and just the economy when it comes to entrepreneurship has really shifted. So I'm going to unpack some of the real challenges that startup founders are facing, like you, whether it's rising capital costs, shifting investor priorities. Right now, we've seen a whole new VC model emerging where VCs are shifting to private equity. We're seeing a change in buyer behavior. Even just what it means to be a founder, the narrative and branding around being a founder in today's startup climate has completely shifted. So in this session, you're going to gain three things. One, you're going to get a global perspective of how startup ecosystems are evolving in 2025 and beyond, and how you should position yourself in today's economy. Two, you're going to get insights on how to really fund and navigate in this strategy. So you have a real tangible, go-to-market strategy to really navigate. And third, last but not least, some solutions that founders can leverage to navigate uncertainty, but also other stakeholders who are supporting entrepreneurs, what they should be doing to make sure that they are relevant in terms of their programming, in terms of their support systems and offerings, to make sure that we have a thriving startup ecosystem that's supporting entrepreneurs and the next generation of pioneers and innovators that we need in every generation for our society to thrive and grow and prosper for with every generation. So whether you are also, I'm not just speaking to founders, even though predominantly I want to speak to the founder community, whether you are early stage, founder, investor, accelerator program leader, incubator, university, government institution doing a program for entrepreneurs, this session will equip you with insights that I know people are not talking about in the mainstream conversation, that I just want to bring out there to highlight, to make sure that we are leveraging these tangible conversations so we could act on it and really act accordingly in a way that makes all of us win. So with that said, let's dive right in. My name is Christine and Tim. I'm a three-time CEO. I've built multiple award-winning generating companies. And one of my programs and initiatives that I've done over the past 7 years is been having the remarkable opportunity of being the CEO and founder of the Global Startup Ecosystem, which is a business education platform where we are the world's first and largest digital accelerator. We accelerate about 1,000 companies each and every year through our digital startup accelerator program. But in addition to our training curriculum to support and help entrepreneurs at the idea stage launch and scale effectively impact driven companies online, we also support stakeholders around the world and countries globally with tech initiatives and launches with our tech summits, where we've gone to Haiti, Nigeria, Ghana, and all different startup hubs that need a global brand presence. And so we've been really proud of the work that we've done over the years. And I'm so excited to share this vantage point of conversations that we're not only having internally with my team and myself and our, advisors and stakeholders, but also the conversations that different stakeholders are having privately that really needs to come to the mainstream so that way you can navigate accordingly. You're going to hear me say that a lot. Okay. So diving right in, at the core of this, we need to have an honest conversation that the state of the world right now has shifted. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of frustration. Things are not how it used to be, right? And when you think about the startup ecosystem, the era of Silicon Valley, the booming generation of like being a startup founder, the narrative around the founder, the ecosystem, and just the industry in general has shifted, right? And so first, before diving in the challenges and trends that we're seeing, I first want to make sure that you guys understand what does a thriving startup ecosystem look like with all the relevant stakeholders. And at GSC, because we have a global partnership network, we work with institutions of all different kinds. We have a core internal model that we use before we launch a tech initiative in any market that we serve, whether again it be in Haiti, Ghana, Nigeria, Japan, Australia, Dubai, wherever it may be. We have a core tenet of 10 key stakeholders that we engage with in any country or any community to make sure that, are there gaps in the market? Is there a thriving ecosystem? So those 10 different stakeholders first begins with entrepreneurs. Is there a thriving entrepreneurial culture within that environment where we find founders and SME owners who, by the way, are usually the backbone of any economy, including the United States, right? So the first stakeholder is entrepreneurs like you and me who are building innovative solutions for challenges that arise in society. The second one is what usually the go-to stakeholder that everyone thinks of immediately is the funder. So that's the VCs, the venture capitalists, the angel investors, the loan facilitators, the grant providers, anyone who facilitates capital flow and growth in the sector are part of the funding community. The third is what we call education institutions. So that's academic university programs, entrepreneurship centers, programs that facilitate and grow entrepreneurship within academic institutions. Some of the biggest founders came from academic institutions who not only help grow and mold the next generation of entrepreneurs, but they also are a great data bank of case studies of successful entrepreneurs who have done very well. I know this because my first startup business, where I made the Forbes list within 2 years, of generated a global visibility around emerging markets and street vending, is now a business case starter at Harvard Business School. So the next generation of MBA graduates and college university students are actually learning from the trials and tribulations of building and scaling that business as a case study. So it's a really great educational bank of case studies of how to build and scale a business, no matter what the industry, no matter what the economy. The fourth stakeholder is what I call accelerators and incubators. These are business education programs like the Global Startup Ecosystems Digital Accelerator Program, where they support entrepreneurs either at the ideation stage, at the scale stage, at different stages of their business to make sure they have a real streamlined network to support them through their entrepreneurial journey. Now, I'm not saying you can't go out into the world, create your own network, but it's a more streamlined approach and a really rapid forming ecosystem to really bubble around you to help you succeed, because we all know over 90% of startups fail, and that statistic really hasn't changed in the past decade. So accelerate incubators are really a point of reference to support the growth and the development of entrepreneurs to succeed as startup founders. Okay. The fifth one is what I call entrepreneurship support organizations, very similar to accelerators and incubators. These are more what we call ESOs, and these are agencies and vendors and accountants and lawyers who, once a company is up and running, we need strategic players to make sure that the company is actually doing due diligence and scaling and growing effectively. Okay. The sixth stakeholder is government agency support systems. So that's your local economic development center. In the United States, that's pretty much the Small Business Administration. Every country, every community, every city has some shape of political or government or policy-driven support system for entrepreneurs. If it doesn't have one, people always discuss about enforcing a policy to support the SME and startup culture of that community. So that's the sixth stakeholder. And then you have seventh, the media reporters. They're the ones that's sharing the stories of entrepreneurs. So the bloggers, the media, the influencers, because at the end of the day, nothing scales a solution more than a captivating story about how that solution came to be, right? We could think of, stories like Facebook and Airbnb and the genesis stories around the founders who built those companies and how that inspires not only the next generation of entrepreneurs, but also inspire people to be more connected to the product, right? The eighth stakeholder is what we call event organizers and programs. This is where we have, people who are gathering stakeholders and players in the ecosystem on a regular basis, either through an annual conference, workshops, meetups, to bring collaboration and fostering community, because at the end of the day, many of these stakeholders are operating in silos. It's just something brings them together to connect the threads. And usually event organizers and programs are great, synthesis for this and catalysts for this. I know this because at GSC, we host tech summit programs around the world, so we can attest to the power of these tech programs and events to bring these stakeholders together. The ninth one are corporate ecosystem players. So we all know the corporate sector, the private sector is a great not only funder but enabler of innovation across the board. They usually have initiatives, competitions, and investments and programs to support entrepreneurs. And the 10th, last but not least, is community networks like associations. Think of your local chamber of commerce, entrepreneur groups. These are different groups and stakeholders that really support entrepreneurs from a community grassroots level. So those are the 10 startup stakeholders that I'm referencing when it comes to having a thriving startup ecosystem and economy to support founders as we speak. And each one of these players are evolving right now in scope and activities and relevance today. I mean, you have institutions because, there's a huge wave of people questioning the validity and the ROI on academic, degrees, that you find that people are really questioning everything from, should I go through our entrepreneurship program? Should I go through our accelerator program? We have this whole debate around nature versus nurture. Are entrepreneurs born or made, right? And so the landscape is really changing for each one of these stakeholders in different ways. So it's important that we address the elephant in the room, that the system is really going through a downturn, right? It's going through a slowdown. It's not as buzz crazy. I remember, back in 2013, 2012, when I just emerged as a startup founder in the ecosystem, there was so much activity. There was so much engagement. There was so much support. It was buzzing. It is not like that anymore. I mean, of course, the internet has matured. People's buying power has matured. So much has shifted. The economy is really tough right now. But the point is, like, each one of these stakeholders are still in existence, right? And how they're navigating the climate is really affecting the state of affairs right now. So diving into a global perspective of how we see the startup ecosystems are evolving right now, we got to first look at, the political climate last year that really shaped development right now in terms of today's economy. Apologies, let's just grab this. Last year we had over 60 plus different elections around the world in 1 year, which is, new political leadership, new policies. I mean, we have seen, even with the current administration in the United States, has completely shifted a lot of different programs and initiatives when it comes to the business and entrepreneurship sector. So we have undergone a radical transformation politically just last year alone, and kicked off 2025 with not only the economic shifts that we're experiencing, but also the political shifts that we're also navigating, right? So here are 7 specific things that I'm seeing in the digital landscape that I want to share with you, okay? To help you understand what we're seeing and why it's something to take note of. So first and foremost, the first thing I'm seeing is that a shift in the accelerated incubator model and leadership, right? I think many of you know, when we think about academic institutions, Harvard is like the brand that we all think of, right? The Harvard of all universities is a brand model of the epitome of academic excellence, right? So in the, accelerator incubator model, that was like, Y Combinator, Techstars, right? These were the places that people turned to where when you got into these programs, this was it. You was part of a very elite network of founders and entrepreneurs who are building disruptive companies. However, the leadership of these communities and these accelerated incubator programs have since not so much exited, but they're doing other things. I mean, Sam Altman of Y Combinator is now doing open AI. You have, Startup Ground, which is probably the largest startup community in the world, founded by Derek Anderson. He's still, playing a big part in that community platform, but he founded Bevy and really working towards, a platform-based product. So you're seeing that the leadership, even Techstars, the founder has since moved on as well. 500 Startups also has exited. So you're seeing a lot of the pillars of the accelerated incubator model actually move into other different ventures. And that has really shifted how we see Silicon Valley and the narrative around relocating to a place to really build the next disruptive company. So that has really shifted the landscape a lot. The second thing that we're seeing, and this dives into where we're talking about location and geographic movements, the innovative hub of seeing Silicon Valley as the end-all be-all destination for innovation has shifted. Even in America, we're seeing hubs where people used to, build programs and initiatives in Silicon Valley due to the economic climate, the weather patterns that occurred in Silicon Valley, and just the shift in just scandals and just things that's happened in the area. We're seeing people are moving to Austin, Texas, or Seattle or other different hubs of innovation to really build thriving entrepreneur ecosystem. So that also relinquishes this need to think that we need to relocate to one specific place to build disruptive companies. And this is something, a movement that we definitely have been a part of in changing the narrative around where innovation comes from doing probably one of the most impact iconic summits in places like Haiti called the Haiti Tech Summit, going to Ghana, doing Ghana Tech Summit, Nigeria Tech Summit. We are one of the largest networks of tech summits around the world. We have 40 live brands of tech summits that we've done in countries around the world to showcase innovation is happening everywhere. The narrative needs to shift around that. So this is a crazy move that has accelerated over the past 2 or 3 years. The third thing that I'm seeing is a shift in the funding landscape. And this is a huge one. Probably the headline that you probably seen is like Lightspeed, is the latest firm to shift away from the classic VC model in terms of how they funded innovative startup companies to a more PE private equity model. So the funding for landscape for startups has completely changed. We're seeing, I remember 3 years ago, there was a big movement around crowd equity raising. We also fundraise a crowd equity platform and raise close to $500,000 through our community through that opportunity. So I've seen so many funding models shift over time. I did crowdfunding for my first startup. I did crowd equity for GSC. I see the VC model is shifting. So how we're getting access to capital as founders is shifting because the industry leaders in that space are also moving differently right now, right? And so you're seeing that people are really shifting how they finance their business growth. And what's happening is you now have to have a very strong business model. But gone are the days when you specifically thought that, I could just get funding from an accelerator program or from a grant program. Like now you have to have a business model from jump that's actually helping you generate revenue with actual value in clients. And that's a huge shift for a lot of startup founders who saw a different culture unfold over the past couple of years, right? So that's something to take note of. The fourth thing that we saw is like there are less startup events happening, right? Curated by smaller plays, which is huge. Like I remember when I first came into the scene, the amount of events that were happening on a daily basis was overwhelming. You just couldn't keep up. There was no way to keep up with any of it, right? I remember when I first relocated to Dubai and really started to understand the startup ecosystem scene, I remember event hopping to at least 4 to 5 events per day. Sometimes a good day, a slow down day was me going to maybe 1 or 2 events, right? That's how crazy. And each one of those events had great value, great speakers, great influencers, great content, great people networking with the buzz. Now, due to limited funding, support, and just buzz and hype around how people spend their time outside of home, because time is the biggest currency right now. You're seeing less startup events curated by smaller peers, right? I do see a rise of tech week initiatives. Just next week we have the New York Tech Week happening in New York City, and it's scaled to London. In San Francisco, led by the Anderson Horowitz, team. But you're seeing that people are more curated and do more micro community events. But the mega tech summits that we used to see, the buzz around that, unless they were supported and funded by either a government institution or a really big backer, you're seeing that there is a slowdown of these type of activities. The fifth trend that we're seeing, this is more looking at the government and policy sector, they're not questioning their investments, right? Because obviously, as the startup ecosystem was kicking off over the past 10 years, there were a lot more governments trying to attract startup founders to come innovate and build within their countries. I remember one of the biggest one that was very popular that I was actually a mentor on as an advisor for several years is Startup Chile, right? Where they would pretty much, they had an incubator, it was funded by the government, where you get 6 figures just to come relocate and build and launch your company from Chile, right? Now looking at the KPIs and the ROIs for initiatives like that, people are questioning whether this is the right tactic to really build innovation in country, right? Because each one of these governments are trying to lure people into their ecosystem, right? I know Dubai did a lot of free zone locations to attract a lot of SME founders. Brazil had new legal frameworks in place for startups, right? Like the U.S. Innovation and Competition Act. There's been a lot of government-related initiatives over the years. I mean, El Salvador's, Bitcoin initiative to really attract innovation, whether it be digital nomad visas. So you're seeing a shift in the market where there's some governments who are launching even tech parks. I've been part of a lot of I've been a consultant and advisor to a lot of government launches for tech park initiatives, tech event initiatives. But there's a huge shift around that because now time has passed where 5 years, 10 years has passed where they can look back on the ROI of these initiatives. Okay. And going back to the event ecosystem, I was on the advisory board for major programs around the world, like Southwest. Almost every single year, I was on the advisory board to give insight on diversity of thought, diversity of content, to help with, selecting entrepreneurs for the pitch competition, and just like the entire energy around this has really shifted, right? The sixth trend that I'm seeing as well is that entrepreneurship programs at universities are really struggling to stay relevant. And I'm going to be very frank about that. Less and less people are attending colleges and MBA programs because people are now questioning the ROI on academic degrees. And as a result, the entrepreneurship programs, departments at these institutions need to be top of mind and create curriculum that are more practical. Some of them are shifting and giving, field case studies, fellowships, shadowing programs to really add relevancy for entrepreneurs. But you see a huge shift in the market in that regard. And the last but not least, and this is probably the biggest one, and this is why I've also shifted a lot of my focus with founders around personal branding, which is reputation management, is the unfortunate loss of faith and founder integrity. There have been too many headlines and scandals of founders who in the beginning came with a very conscious, purpose-driven message as to why they're building the solutions that they're building, only to find out that a lot of them did not really mean the premise that they put out there. There was been too many scandals and just, just pure debauchery, right? And what has happened is that, because of that visual around the faith and founder integrity has gone down. I mean, due to scandals like Sam Bankman-Fried with the FTX, right? Or Shiley Javis with, the millennial founder who sold her company to JP Morgan, right? Who's the other one? Was it Terranos? And what she's done, she's been given jail time. I mean, too many mainstream stories are showcasing founders in a bad light. So the inspiration that founders once were able to position and hold is now met with a lot of skepticism. And it's really unfortunate for founders who are really building purpose-driven, impactful companies are paying the price for that skepticism. So these are really huge trends that are all happening simultaneously right now in the tech ecosystem that we need to be aware of and conscious of, right? But one thing I will say, it's not all bad, right? This is the time where you as a founder can either soar or just sink to the bottom, right? Because despite these updates, here's where I want to speak directly to the founders on the call watching this state of union address about the state of the startup ecosystem, to say that, look, chaos is a ladder, right? And the highest number of millionaires and disruptive founders, successful founders and stories happen during hard times. The last recession gave rise to Airbnb and Facebook and all the biggest platforms that we use today. The dot-com boom really was around the emergence of Google, right, as a new alternative search engine. So sometimes the economic climate, it weeds out the founders who are in it for brand visibility and in it just for small wins, and maintains the founders who have the integrity and resilience and the commitment to their solution to stay in the market no matter what the challenge is thrown at them. And so I want to share with you some stats as to, despite what's happening in the shift in the climate, if you are very committed to the why behind your product, this era is for you. This era was meant for founders who want to build with purpose and integrity and intention. And this is by far for me, I am seeing founders just drop off one by one by one by one by one, not because they don't have the resilience to keep up, but because they have to question why they're coming into the market in the first place. Why are they building the products and services that they're bringing to market in the first place? And that really comes to the fundamental, a lot of soul searching and really a lot of real introspection as to did you actually build a product that serves a problem? And if so, are you willing to go the extra mile to make sure that that solution gets into the heart and mind of your ideal client, consumer, stakeholder, beneficiary? Okay. So with that said, I mean, the World Economic Forum estimates that 70% of new value created globally over the next 10 years is going to be based on digital business trading, right? So even just taking the digital space by storm, going online is going to create a new wave of entrepreneurs. PwC projects that gains for just the AI revolution that's happening right now will contribute to $15.7 trillion in the global economy by 2030. Huge, huge number, right? And COVID-19 has actually accelerated and shifted human psychology around digital business, digital workforce culture, and how companies scale and grow virtually online, which means your ability to scale has completely taken another level. So when you think about the trends in the digital space, in AI, and just buyer behavior, even though it's harder to build and scale a business, it's actually easier to scale your impact to global reach. So this is a time period to definitely not even just be weak, right? And say like, oh, come in, please. And not only, look at, how to be persistent as a founder, but also think about, okay, how do I now go the extra mile to achieve the impact I want to make in this world? Okay. So the last thing I would say is that if you feel like everything is taking longer, to build, what I would say in that matter, right? What I would say is like, this is a time for you to look at yourself as a founder and the work that you want to do. Because realistically, this is where innovation and opportunity is going to emerge, because the most creative founders are going to find a way to navigate this market. We are no longer going to accept the Silicon Valley narrative that, come to Silicon Valley and make it and build a global company. And that is how we're going to make an impact in the world. That is done and shattered, right? Innovation ecosystems are no longer truly tied to geographic location, especially seeing this digital revolution that's happening. You are able to now go from zero to literally a global audience just like that overnight. And I know this firsthand as someone who has built tech ecosystems and summit programs around the world, whether it be Haiti, Ghana, or Nigeria. We have done this countless times. So with this said, now that I shared, the stakeholders who are operating in today's economy, 7 trends that I've seen that really shifted the landscape over the past couple of years, particularly in 2025. What do you do? What are the action steps I think that you need to take hold of to position you for success in 2025 and beyond? And I will start with this. Let me first address the founders. First and foremost, I already said this before, and maybe I should take a step back and address the stakeholders. Whether you are an incubator, university program, or investor, accept that change is happening and that you now have to reposition your value proposition to not just founders, but the economy, because everyone's skeptical right now. So how is your program inspiring and preparing the next generation of leaders? We are doing this every day at GSC, showcasing the value proposition of our core flagship programs to build the next generation of founders. That's the first one. The second thing is you have to revise and update your curriculum, your structure for business, so that entrepreneurs who are going through your programs are being more resilient and know what is required of them in this strategic landscape, right? This is the reason why we at GSC are also offering strategic advisory services to help institutional clients navigate today's climate to really be more relevant and more practical. And last but not least, I really want to challenge entrepreneur organizations who are supporting founders. Don't just close up shop because of limited reach. This is a time to find that diamond in the rough and be there and be committed to your lead mission of supporting the next generation of founders, right? We're no longer operating on hype, we're now operating on value. Just because things are shifting doesn't mean that you cannot ride the wave and really build and make real impact in the lives of entrepreneurs who need and really require your services, your impact, your community, your network, and resources right now. Now, that's for my stakeholders, for my founders. I'm going to end my message with you. Okay. First and foremost, accept that this is not going to resolve itself this year. Okay. We are looking at a multi-year cycle of slow downturns, difficulty in the market. So everyone might be telling you that this is a time to just give up, tap out, right? So many people have been really crowded in the market saying that you could become a millionaire overnight and just lying about their true trials and tribulations of being a founder. This is a time to bootstrap. This is a time to step up. This is time to reclaim your calling as a founder and go back to the core calling that called you to step up and become a founder and create innovative solutions for today's society. Stop chasing programs that are just there for the sake of just, building your brand presence, and really think about what is your strategy as an entrepreneur. And furthermore, how can you reshape the brand of being a founder in today's economy? Integrity is so lost. Trust is broken. How can you rebuild trust as a founder and CEO in this market and really be a part of a new narrative, of new generation of entrepreneurs who are going to dominate the stories? What you do today is going to shape the stories and the journeys of entrepreneurs tomorrow, right? So take that with a real close to your heart, that how you navigate this economy and how you navigate your business in today's digital age is really going to be one for the books that people are going to be studying and reviewing for generations to come. So really be steadfast in your mission and really be committed to your goals. So with that said, how can we at GSC, as a global startup ecosystem, help you and serve you during this challenge? I first want to share that first and foremost, to my institutional stakeholders, reach out to us at info@globalstartupfoundation.com, right? Reach out to us at GSC Live. We have our strategic digital startup advisory services where we help stakeholders launch major digital initiatives such as events, accelerators, and entrepreneur programs that really build resilience, so you have a successful campaign and program to support your entrepreneurs effectively. I'm sharing that on the chat, the contact information for that, right? For my aspiring entrepreneurs who have an idea and you want to launch your idea to market, I want to welcome you to join our annual Digital Startup Accelerator program. We have been doing this for 8 years now and running. And this is probably the most comprehensive experience for you to launch your company at scale online with our community network. Now, if you are an established entrepreneur and you're just trying to really navigate your resilience and really build and scale your revenue, I welcome you to join the GSC Digital Startup Academy. This is more for established entrepreneurs who want to have a more resilient overview and how to build a business that scales with a community membership that truly inspires. This is the program for you. Okay. So with that said, I want to welcome all of you to really navigate this challenge with us together. If you want the show notes of today's session, comment notes, and I will happily share the notes from today's session. Again, I want to welcome you to obviously join GSC. If you go on our website at globalstartupecosystem.com, you will see all the programs we have available to you for you to either apply and join immediately. And of course, if you comment notes, we'll be able to DM and email this to you about this entire conversation that we had today to help you navigate today's economy. Without further ado, thank you so much for joining me for today's session. I'm so excited to be a part of your journey, and I wish you all the very best. 30 minutes or less, I wanted to make sure that this was a bite-sized information that will help you navigate the state of the global startup ecosystem today, and not only take this on as a challenge, but actually an opportunity to make an impact. Because for entrepreneurs on this call, the world needs you, and they need you to be innovative, resilient, and committed to your why like never before. So all the best to my founders in the room and to my stakeholders around the world. Keep leading, keep facilitating, keep building the next generation of entrepreneurs. And I look forward to see you guys on the other side of this venture, of the other side of this journey Congratulations, everyone. Looking forward to seeing you the next State of Global Startup Ecosystem Trends Analysis conversation. All the best. My name is Christina and Tim, CEO and founder of the Global Startup Ecosystem. See you next time. Bye-bye. That there are multiple different conversations that comes when it comes to future work trends.
One thing that I always find really interesting is how many people kind of all agree that this is the time for Africa to shine and there is a lot happening out there, but no one has really taken the step to do anything.
So it's very this question where you're applying for the job, they say you don't have any experience, but you need experience to have experience.
With all the measures of caution, back to normal in order to keep our society functioning.
Hello all. Thank you for attending this great experiment, and thanks for having me. It is an honor to be a keynote speaker for the first summit where the audience does not have to wear pants.
I want to reframe artificial intelligence, reframe AI as a potential remover of fear and not the cause. I'm sure this is something that we hear a lot in our various businesses and our conversations, that AI is going to be this global catastrophic risk and end us all, especially if you're fans of sci-fi.
So the blockchain and cryptocurrencies represent a whole new different world. It's like a different universe in which we get to write the rules.
So in this particular photo, we did a documentary about what quarantine looked like in Hangzhou, China, when COVID first hit. And we were able to play that experience with a group of our colleagues and peers, watch it and discuss it together inside of VR.
AI and quantum computing and brain-computer interfacing and the future of computing, it's all based on mastery of matter at the nano scale.
For the first time for this country, I see say young people come together, do something. Nobody talk about the kind church where they go, the kind God where they pray to, the tribe where you come from, the language where you they speak, the clique where you did, the economic class where you did. I just did for everything just they happen like clockwork.
So you have a lot of young people who are getting into positions where they can influence more things happening for us in the tech ecosystem, and I think that is great.
Yeah. Somebody passe $1,000 par mois. Qui va combien de jeunes qui a école? Ou bien on peut parler. Pour l'autre bagarre, écoutez maman en Haïti. Pour ouvrir une compagnie SA, faut ouvrir un compte en banque dans BLC avec 100 000 gouttes sous lui. L'on fin ouvrir compagnie ça, ou aller dans BLC, il faut rouvrir l'autre compte encore. Ça crée avec 100 000 gouttes là.
You know that women make up half of the world's working age population, but right now are generating about 37% of GDP.
To me, it's really easy. And if you think about the technologies today that can even examine patients remotely, where you have devices like this, the Med one, for example, which can do a number of physical examinations remotely.
I say to a lot of entrepreneurs that you have to treat every situation as though it is an investor meeting, as though it is something that's significant that can support you with your business.
We have the world's first and largest digital accelerator. We have been running digital accelerators for the past 6 years. So we're so excited again to bring you this program virtually so you can still engage with this content.